this looks fun.
It's a medium, not a genre. It's not part-time, it's a lifetime.
Hello everyone, Beyond is back, and I'm here to talk about another piece of animated media, this being the Netflix film The Imaginary. Now, I must admit I've been having, especially compared to other ideas I've been having a lot of trouble figuring out how to properly organize this review. So, because I always try and make it interesting. So I've been stumped for a bit on how to pursue this. Then I realized there was another movie that I saw this year which also has to do with imaginary friends and stuff. That would be the classic Ryan Reynolds movie If. So why not just compare the two in order to somehow make a really cohesive narrative? And if you think that sounds like a good idea, let's carry on with. So instead of starting off with the imaginary characters, might as well start off with the imaginaries of those characters. Let's start with the imaginary with Amanda. Awkwardly enough, she's not in the movie for nearly as long as the imaginary main character is. But for the amount of time that she does spend on screen, I think the film does a good job of establishing a connection she has with Rutger. He wouldn't be her imaginary friend for any other reason besides that. And the film does a good job at showing you rather than telling you, which is always important. When it comes to character design, I guess she, of course, is just a little girl, so you don't have to do anything too fancy with it. But it's recognizable. She stands out from the other characters we meet in the Imaginary's land. So now let's move on to If, featuring B as the Imaginary, and she is first off, she's actually in the movie for the majority of the duration, and she can be she has a little one note just as an element for other actors the one and only Deadpool to work off of. But that does kind of check out. She doesn't really feel like she stands out as much as the one that Rutger's with, because Rutger's one is shown very often interacting with him, really selling connection to it. Of course, when she's gone, him caring about her is something that makes us care about her as well, because we'll get to the main imaginary characters soon, but the F one doesn't really have that. It's not really F doesn't really have a main threat, unlike the imaginary, which has a decent amount. So I guess 1 point for the imaginary for the main imaginary. So next is So now we're getting into the main imaginary characters, starting with Rutger from the Imaginary. Like I said, he has that whole goal where he's trying to get to Amanda, because of course Amanda is his child, is the person who created him, and we're following him on this journey, and a journey which understandably will lead doubts of goals, questions about the morality of what he's doing, of if it's even worth it, because he has many opportunities just to stay in a safe location where like there's easy protocol and like there's no worries about having to deal with the bad force that I'll get into later. But I feel like like aims for those goals right. It doesn't like shoulder nudge you enough that feels annoying or make it like make it too subtle that it's hard to even recognize. I feel like the movie does a good job of like really helping you like recognize his struggles and stuff, being like just being a seemingly lost imaginary friend, almost disappearing multiple times. So there's that. But here's the movie. Ryan Reynolds' character. I'm just gonna call him Ryan Reynolds because it's basically just him. If you haven't seen the movie, he is Bee's like imaginary friend, as she wasn't sure as who he was until now. And when it comes to him, I mean, like I said, he is in the movie like for quite the majority of it. And I mean, of course, these two movies are completely different. I mean, are different enough in like scale and story and all that. But with these elements, I can combine them. But anyway, so he's like, of course, giving comedic stuff because that's stuff that people like to give Ryan Reynolds. And when it comes to like endearment, when it comes to like a cool character to follow him, yeah, he doesn't really have nearly as much like story depth as the other movie does. If is a really weird movie, and so is The Imaginary, but they feel weird in different ways. It feels weird in like a structural way, where like there isn't really any like real like conflict besides just the worries of the Imaginary's like parents or parent. So with him, not too much else to say besides he can be entertaining. Ryan Reynolds is really comfortable in that lane. He does a decent job of like interacting with the other characters. And well, I guess I would just give this to Ledger for being better. Anyway, next is... So now let's go on to the supporting the Imaginaries. Starting with the Imaginary of like this hippo, this like little like adventurer girl, and slow skeleton guy, like at least at the beginning. Interestingly enough about the Imaginaries is that like these characters like different stuff like they don't all come out like the same in the end. Like the girl I just mentioned, the like adventurous girl, like helps Roger on like adventure, like it's like it's kind of hard to describe, like unimagined. And the skeleton guy finds a permanent home. The hippo is just like nothing really happens to her, but she's there for the ride. And when it comes to them, they actually do a pretty good job of like expressing just what happens to like different elements of being an imaginary friend, finding new ones, losing a chance to find someone, just once again de-imagining. And well, like I just said, they do a good job of like portraying that stuff in a subtle way. It's like, of course, it's more that show don't tell stuff, and there's a great way to use supporting characters in general. I always prioritize trying to give any character I make a good amount of purpose and make them more than just a pretty face. This movie is a great example of that. Yeah. And back to F. you know about the movie's marketing, it was heavily based on a bunch of supporting, like a ton of supporting characters voiced by different celebrities. You have Matt Damon, Steve Carell, Sam Rockwell, Aquafina, all those. Like they're mainly just meant to like entertain stuff. Like some other characters have had more purpose. I guess we might as well. Blue. Blue is like he's like easily like the one with the. I mean, also there's that one toy like 50s, 40s like girl doll thing, but they're both like the main stars, main supporting stars, as as we look for their like homes themselves. And I mean their scenes were pretty nice for what they were, but we still have a bunch of other supporting characters who don't really add too much to it. And as someone who, like I said, was taught like really likes to have characters feel like they're designed more as characters and just like appealing names that's like goofiness. I mean, like the movie just, what can I say? I'm giving this to the Imaginaries again. So now let's get on to conflicts. So starting off with the Imaginary, this movie was a lot like more depressing than I expected it to be. I mean, I expected, of course, there to be like a little bit of sad moments, just like matching with the good, but this is a pretty harrowing, like sometimes a little bit uncomfortable, like session to endure. So at least it gives me a lot of conflicts to talk about. Of course, there's the one with the idea of going like disappearing due to Amanda's accident, and that's like a big theme throughout the majority of the movie, just the fear that Wedger would like go away. And that, like I said before, that's treated pretty seriously. Like Wedger sounds scared, everyone sounds concerned, and all that jazz. What I didn't explain before was Mr. Bunting. He is like more of a villain in this, while the other one, while the whole disappearing is of course like a force of nature. So I really like his voice. He's pretty intimidating by the fact that he's like, of course, trying to consume the dreams. And that's pretty scary. It looks scary, but I'll get into like the visuals later. And besides that, yeah, he's treated pretty seriously. Interesting how he's like treated as a myth by everyone else before, but then later on, everyone finds out and everyone's all scared and stuff. It leads to some pretty tense scenes. That's that. So let's go back to the If movie, and like I said, it doesn't really have much of a conflict outside of just the like V's parent, father, John Krasinski, his name, like having falling ill, and just the possibility that he won't wake up. But that element is like, see, that he doesn't really add much to the like his like survival doesn't really depend much on the actions of everything else. Like it's not like he does survive in the end, but it's not like with any help of the like group of imaginary friends that we've conjured up throughout the movie. I mean, she believes, but of course it's just believing. It doesn't really affect the outcome much. But what I did like was, I mean, of course, just I mean, she did sound sad when like he was in that state. The movie does try a decent amount to like make it sound like it's something that we should be concerned with along with B. But it just can't keep up the imaginary wins again by just having more interesting elements here. But the movie doesn't have to have like a serious conflict. And of course, like the If movie isn't in any danger of like not having it. So it's kind of hard to like compare them in that sense. Might be the hardest way of all the elements to do that with. But I mean, I kind of appreciate how like complex it kind of was with the imaginary, so still giving it to that. So final position of character analysis. This would have to be the designs of the like two movies as imaginary characters. I'm not focusing on visuals right now, but I'm focusing on just the fundamentals of these character designs. So with the imaginary, like it tries to because both of these movies sort of try and go for like a similar route when it comes to coming up with like its imaginary characters, like what kids or others could find to be like as inspiration for imaginary friends, as they're the ones, of course, coming up with the designs of them. So with the imaginary, you have characters like Woodger who are like humans, and also like the hippo person I mentioned before. I like how this movie kind of like makes these elements like more familiar, like people, animals. Sometimes they can get a little more fancy, but that's like we get introduced to quite a few of them like that. Even the villain has like character that resembles a human as their imaginary, and it does add for a good amount of like just it I can see it's like really connection based, and I appreciate it for that, as it might sound a little safe-ish, but it works with how kind of realish these imaginary elements are given, if that makes sense. And in the If movie's case, it did get, I do remember getting like like a little bit of backlash for its character designs, imaginary characters feeling like not very inspired, just based on a bunch of different like existing stuff, like pencils with legs, bubbles, stuff. But I kind of just view it as just like a bunch of silly little kids. I'm just thinking of random stuff to apply as imaginary friends. Of course, the kid's gonna apply a gummy bear. Of course, they're gonna apply bubbles. Of course, they're gonna apply the some sort of dog superhero thing voiced by Sam Rockwell. But the point is, it feels like it does, even though it sounds pretty like a little lame, it does feel like it relates to like characters, like little children's imaginations. Like if it was really lame, it would like the characters would just be like just shapes and blobs and stuff with little faces on them. That would strike me as a lot less creative on the team's part. But I mean, I'm fine with the If movies approach. I actually don't know which one of these I prefer, as they both apply like similar feelings to them. They both feel like they're aiming for the same goal, but just in different ways. You know what? I'll give them a tie. We're tying this. Okay, now that all that character analysis stuff is done, we have one more thing to discuss before concluding, which would happen to be the visuals. And I gotta say, for the imaginary, it is like might be the movie's strongest aspect because wow, this movie is really, really great visually. It's done by Studio Ponok. Not too familiar with their work, but I can assure you that their efforts were really well handled here. Like the colors, like character animation, like with stuff like that. Mr. Bunting's consumption methods. It all looks very inspired and just like a whole bunch of passion went into it. And wouldn't be too surprised to say that the If movie, in my eyes, for being someone who's prefers animation over live action, doesn't really compare nearly as well. I mean, I can just look at it through the set pieces and all that. I did find it it is a little annoying that all the fancy dancing around, all the colorful lights, pretty stuff, that dragon, all that was only saved for one little scene, while the rest is a little more down, a little more, much less exaggerated from of course that scene, and it makes it feel a little bit out of place. I mean, there are other scenes of course where the Magi's step in. The movie's filmography and stuff doesn't really, it's not doesn't try anything too out, it's fine. It doesn't really do too much just stand out from other movies, from the other average movie with serviceable filmography that does its job of course for giving stuff emphasis, letting us see good composition stuff, all that basic stuff. But I'm comparing animation to live action, where animation you can do much more with many different colors and stuff and not make it look really awkward. So I'll just give the imaginary this, as I don't think anyone will mind, and we can end this with so yeah, suffice to say, I think the imaginary might be a better movie than the If movie. I don't even really hate the If movie, but I mean, compared to the imaginary, the If movie just doesn't feel like it had too much in mind besides just getting all these coming up with all these different silly characters voiced by popular people. While the imaginary felt more it had a story to tell. I mean, I'm glad I saw both of them. I mean, I could make this video. I could think more about what imaginary friends have done for people, including myself. I could also make this video. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I guess this was just a little cute thing I could do for these two movies, because I did want to I was thinking of doing a video on both the If movie and the imaginary, so because I might not just squeeze them together. And if you like this one, make sure to check out more of my stuff. And I guess you'll be seeing this artist later. I hallucinate when you call my name. Got stars in my eyes, and they don't fade when you come my way. I'm losing my mind, mind, I hallucinate when you call my name. Got stars in